This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. For connectors, cables, and more, call 920-435-2973 or visit pl-259.com. And by ICOM. Heard it, worked it, logged it. Visit www.icomamerica.com/amateur for more information about ICOM radios.
It's Ham Radio with Neil Rapp. Here we go. Welcome to Ham Talk Live. Call in, let's talk. Neil's your guy. Ham Talk Live. Here we go on Ham Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. It's time for Ham Talk Live, episode number 289, the Voice of America 80th Anniversary Special Event. I'm your host, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ham Talk Live. We're doing this on February 17th, 2022. And we're joined by Jocelyn, KD8VRX, Marc, K3POE, and Peter in for PVH in just a short while. Last episode was on live from Orlando Hamcation. So if you missed that show, you can listen anytime at hamtalklive.com or on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. And don't forget, you can catch the rebroadcast of Ham Talk Live over on WTWW Shortwave. They're at 5085 on your AM dial. Again, 5.085, Saturday afternoons at about 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So we're going to talk about this special event tonight, and one of the places that you can find a lot of information about this special event is on the QRZ pages of the call sign. So there's W3V, Whiskey 3 Victor, Whiskey 8 Oscar, and Whiskey 4 Alpha are the three special event calls that will be on the air this weekend. And so check out their QRZ pages, and you can see some links to some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. So make sure you check that out. So I'll be back with Jocelyn, Marc, and Peter right after this word from Tower Electronics right here on Ham Talk Live.
Jerry, what's up, man? I haven't seen you at Sunbucks in a while. I used to see you every morning getting coffee. What's up?
Well, I can't afford Sunbucks 5 days a week anymore. I had to spend my money on PL259s. You know, those antenna projects I've been meaning to do. I had to do them before my HOA finds out I have antennas.
That's too bad, Jerry. I miss seeing you and catching up over coffee. You should get your PL259s from Tower Electronics. They have great stuff. Jerry, you're back. Oh, QRM Heterodyne Frappuccino. That's a good choice. How's it going? Did you get all those antennas up before the HOA police showed up?
Yeah, I got them all done. Thanks for telling me about Tower Electronics. Now I can have my coffee. I just saved a bunch of money on my PL259s by switching to Tower Electronics.
Don't get caught without PL259s. Visit Tower Electronics online at pl-259.com or at a Hamfest near you. Or give them a call at 920-435-2973. And be sure to pick up some power poles, adapters, and cables too.
Running barefoot is for the beach. We're cranking 1.5 trillion nanowatts right here on Ham Talk Live.
Welcome back to Ham Talk Live. Tower Electronics will be at Dalton, Georgia on February 26th. That's at the North Georgia Ag Fairgrounds. And then November 5th, they'll be at Cave City, Kentucky at the Cave City Convention Center. Or you can visit them anytime at pl-259.com. Welcome back to Ham Talk Live. Tonight, Jocelyn, KD8VRX, Mark, K3POE, and Peter, N4PVH, join us on the Orlando Amateur Radio Club and Hamcation Zoom line. Jocelyn Bro, KD8VRX, is the past president of the Westchester Amateur Radio Association, WC8VOA, located at the Voice of America Bethany Relay Station in northern Cincinnati. And Jocelyn organizes many special events and contest entries at the Voice of America Museum of Broadcasting, located on the original VOA site. Marc Poe, K3POE, is one of the Voice of America's RF engineers based in Washington, D.C. And Mark got licensed because of the other engineers at the VOA and their influence. And then we also have with us tonight Peter Van Houten, N4PVH. He is the president of the Brightleaf Amateur Radio Club in Greenville, North Carolina, and is spearheading a restoration of the Voice of America site there into a ham radio superstation. So, Jocelyn, Mark, and Peter, welcome to Ham Talk Live.
Good evening, Neil.
Good evening.
Good evening, Neil. It's an honor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, we have this special event coming up this weekend, and so we want to make sure everybody knows about it and what's taking place here. So let's start off with talking about the call signs that are involved and the dates and times and locations here for this special event. So let's see. Peter, you want to take that one?
Sure. So we all got together and decided to get some one-by-one calls, and the suffix of them spell out VOA. So in Washington, D.C., we will have W3V, and in Westchester, Ohio, we will have W8O, and in Greenville, North Carolina, we will have W4 Alpha, and we'll be operating somewhere around 10 o'clock in the morning until about 8 p.m. Obviously, operators can go longer if they so desire. And the bands that we've been looking to start with is 20 meters, 40 meters, 80, with single sidebands CW and FT8. So...
Okay, very good. So that's 10 to 8 Eastern time here in the U.S., and it'll be on the air from those three call signs at those three different locations. Okay, so Jocelyn, what bands and modes are going to be active, and what about the spotting? Are some of the stations going to be spotted so we can find you all that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll answer your questions, or I'll repeat a little bit what Peter said. So, yeah, we're looking from 20 to 80. If 10 and 15 meters are open, we're going to try those bands, but we're going to go with the good old 10, 40, 80, which usually works. As Peter said, we're doing sideband, FT8. We're going to try to do CW. We are aware that the ARRL DX CW contest is also this weekend. If the bands are too crowded, we may switch to a non-contesting band like 12 or 17 meters. As far as spotting, we had a quick intro of DX Heat. I know that not everybody is familiar with it, but I think everybody likes it. So we're going to be spotting ourselves, and we encourage people that hear us on the air to respot us just to make sure we're easy to find for everybody.
All right, very good. Okay, and I'm sure you have QSL cards available for everybody who works the station. So let's hear about those and where people should send those and all those details. So let's go to Mark on that one.
So each station, the W3V, W8O, and W4A will have their own EQSL card for that would be sent out within a few days after the contest is over. Once we process all the logs and all the AIDF files and so on and so forth, and then those who submit a SASC will get a paper card, and there will also be a certificate. And our certificate will have written on the back which stations they contacted on which mode and at what time, and all that will be filled out. And it'll be double-sided, obviously, and it'll have. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jocelyn. That the certificate will have a picture of the WLO transmitter on one side. Is that correct?
That's the QSL card. Yeah, the certificate is just a PDF that will be emailed to the QRZ email address of the recipient. So if you make contact with us, make sure your QRZ email address is up to date, because that's what we will be using to send out the certificate and the digital QSL cards with all the information. The certificate, we were lucky enough to have Lou and Go2C and Sally K2RYD helping us out with generating those certificates for us and emailing those out to all the the people that make contact. You only need to make a contact to get either the certificate, the QSL, or the electronic QSL, digital QSL card, or the this SASC. Obviously, you should shoot for the clean sweep. I'll have a clean sweep endorsement on the certificate. But so one contact, doesn't matter what mode, gets you possibly 3 awards.
All right, thank you. So, Mark, you're a current employee of Voice of America as the RF engineer. Let's talk a little bit about the 80th anniversary here and what that means to you and the staff at VOA.
It is really a milestone to still be in existence after 80 years. We started at the end of World War II to combat Nazi propaganda with the truth. And from the very beginning, even in those first broadcasts, it was said that whether the news would be good or bad, we would tell you the truth. And a lot of times the news was bad, and it was negative. When the Allies were losing, it really didn't look good, but it was it made us credible to have to share that with the world and to not try to hide it like the Nazis did, and later with the Russians, that everything's copacetic, everything's great. There's the harvests are plentiful. Don't question the Fuhrer. And we have been and remain the voice of America, and we are intended to represent not just a view, but a comprehensive view of quote significant American thought, to paraphrase our charter. And ever since then, we haven't shied away to going forward. Now we're in the 21st century, and VOA has been a pioneer in a lot of areas, including being the first broadcaster to distribute programming on the internet in 1994 using Gopher, which I guess you would call a browser. Back long ago, and then for audio files, they had an FTP site that you had to download them very, very slowly. But it existed, and yeah. So
the VOA, has decommissioned these 2 sites that are going to be in the special event in Westchester, Ohio, and in Greenville. But the VOA is still operating, and again, you're one of the people in charge of making sure that RF is still going where it's supposed to go. So where is VOA right now, and what are the target audiences for the RF side of things? And then, of course, it's worldwide with streaming, I would assume.
Target audience. That's I can just say we are broadcasting in 40 different languages at the moment. Everything from Uyghur to Tigray to Swahili, Tibetan, and Spanish. some English. There's the special English broadcast is still on the air, and there have been many people who visited Jocelyn's museum who've said that they learned to speak English from the Voice of America, and that is just one of the many languages. English is just one of the many languages. Although the standard English broadcasts, as like the BBC might have, they have kind of taken a back seat to other more important targets, I guess you would say. But I'm not here as a representative of the Voice of America. I can only state what's public knowledge, and
sure.
I guess that's. Did I answer your question?
So yeah, tell me a little more about the RF. Let's just like you said, you're not a representative necessarily in this wearing this hat tonight, but what bands, what are some of the transmitters that are currently running and antennas, those kinds of things?
Oh wow. We have, running down through the sites, there was Greenville, obviously, site A. There's in Marathon. We have the largest AM station in the country, broadcasts out of Marathon Key towards Cuba. We have Sao Tome. There's Botswana. We have 2 stations in Germany. There's Kuwait. There's Philippines, Thailand. There are 2 in the Marianas at Saipan and Tinian. There's a megawatt. We have a megawatt AM station in Thailand as well. The coolest antenna we have is in Kuwait. And it's a rotatable 2x2 curtain that spins like on a shaft, and I can hit anywhere from Europe all the way to China from that antenna. I'll say that most of the sites these days use curtains, usually slewable curtains. The transmitters are predominantly 250 kilowatts, although there are some that are 50 kilowatt backup transmitters. For a while, we were using one of these 50 kilowatters to run a DRM program out of the Greenville transmitting station there in Greenville, and that has since ceased. But we maintain the capability to broadcast DRM in the future. Personally, I would like to see some of that come back, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. The Greenville station still maintains many rhombic antennas. Whether they're using them or not, I can't speak about, but they are pretty impressive when you see just the amount of steel that went into building these things. And in one of my jobs, we were dismantling antennas and moving things around and moving transmitters around, and you really learn to respect how well these things were built. When I am younger than most of the transmitters in our system. I think the last shortwave transmitter we bought was in the 80s.
Wow.
And I know that the last medium wave we bought was in 2004, which was a 800,000 watt for Central Asia. And I can say that because I did the factory acceptance test for it in France. It's a Thales transmitter. But as far as the majority of our transmitters are continental. There are some Marconi, as in a shortwave side. We have, I know of a Harris. There are a few Harris DX series AM transmitters. There are some Marconi medium wave transmitters. I'm not sure what the megawatt is in Thailand, but that's impressive, regardless.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
A lot of the AMs have gone by the wayside. We had one in Cyprus, and it's off the air. We closed a shortwave station in Sri Lanka within the past 7 years. Site A in Greenville was closed, but that's what remains. It remains to be seen. It seems like every time they talk about cutting back programming and cutting languages, or defund, the sunsetting of shortwave, there's some disaster that happens, some crisis that they immediately, someone wants to know, how do we get into this region that is landlocked mentally? There's no free flow of information of or into or about a certain region, and it falls back on the short wave. It falls back on this quote antiquated technology.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but with so much of the internet, being cut off and filtered by certain countries, that would be one way you could get around that.
Yeah,
right. And
Mark, how many listeners did you have here recently?
We've 310 million audience, up from 280 in 2020.
So the audience is growing still, and it's some pretty cool stuff. And when I went to the museum the first time in Westchester and heard about the special English thing, that really caught my attention. That by using basic English words, you could actually teach people English over a radio, and it's just fascinating. The progress that made teaching people, and so that they can listen to, the newscasts and know, what the true happenings are in their world.
Did I answer your questions sufficiently there? Is that?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So I will admit my favorite antenna in the network is in Djibouti. Is one of the medium waves I forgot to mention. We have one site next to a shortwave site run by the government of Djibouti. Well, one of my first jobs was to model a log periodic antenna, very similar to the one that they have at WRNO, the Rock of New Orleans.
Oh, yes. Yep.
And I was given a paper size C drawing. This is like 2 feet by 3 feet in French, and the drawing was only it was wire lengths. There's wire lengths, and it had like a few notations on angle, like pitch angle and rib angle and cage, wire diameter and insulator size. I had to like model all this in NEC to try to figure out whether doubling the power would cause corona on the insulators. And I just I had literally had, this is before Google Translate, I literally had a French to English dictionary out trying to understand what all this stuff was. And I had never done, log periodic antenna, sort of new, TV antennas. But anyway, long story short, the model predicted that there would be no corona. We doubled the power, and the Djibouti government was very happy.
Well, there you go. Can't ask for much better than that. All right, well, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the history of VOA and a little bit more with the special event when we come back with Jocelyn, Mark, and Peter right after this word from ICOM America right here on Ham Talk Live. Now is the time to spice up your ham shack with ICOM's new ID52 handheld. Now shipping. This radio is perfect for staying in or venturing out and working your favorite bands this winter season. The ID52A is now shipping. ICOM's newest handheld amateur radio is a VHF-UHF dual bander with D-Star and FM dual mode functions. This radio supports conventional FM communications and D-Star simplex for
repeater, regional, and worldwide calls over the D-Star Internet Gateway. The ID52A is the first amateur radio handheld with a full-color 2.3-inch waterfall display and the ability to send photos over D-Star with a connected Android device. Other features include a wideband receiver with a guaranteed range of 144 to 148 and 440 to 450 megahertz, integrated GPS, including grid square location, micro SD card slot, micro USB connector, and IPX7 waterproof. For more information about ICOM radios, go to icomamerica.com/amateur.
You're listening to Ham Talk Live, the #1 podcast amongst the podcasts with the words ham, talk, and live in the title. Here's your host, Neil Rapp.
Welcome back to Ham Talk Live. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you want to watch those as we record shows. We'll be posting the topic, and you'll have a chance to ask your questions in advance since we're not doing the live shows much anymore. That's how we'll take your questions is on Twitter. Ahead of time, so make sure you check us out there on social media for the topics as these programs are produced. All right, well, let's get back to the guys here talking about the 80th anniversary of the Voice of America special event. All right, welcome back. We're here with Jocelyn Bro, K88VRX, and Marc, K3POE, and Peter, N4PVH. They are the people behind the 80th anniversary of the Voice of America special event coming up this weekend. And I want to go to Peter here for a little bit. Peter, talk about what's going on at the Greenville site and trying to build this the super station down there. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, just as a brief intro to the Greenville sites, we had, I think back in the 1963, was it? JFK went and commissioned the VOA site in Greenville, and they made A and B. They had three of them, A, B, and C. A and B were identical all the way down to the water coolers. And eventually A got decommissioned, budget cuts or whatever. And B currently is very much up and running and broadcasting to South America. Site C was more of a relay station and a listening post than it was anything else. And so it wasn't really designed to have the huge transmitters that A or B had. So C got decommissioned in the 90s. And so our Brightleaf Amateur Radio Club has been going out there ever since then and hooking up, a ladder line to these things and blasting our signal all over the world with about 20 to 23 dB gain on these rhombic antennas. So there used to be 23 rhombic antennas, and a bunch of them got carted off to other places. But we have 4 of them left in the major directions. They're typically about a little less than, the towers are a little less than 200 feet, and they have sort of diamond shaped, a rhombic shape, and they have typically 3 wires going from the apex to the side antenna tower and then back to the apex again. So it makes them rather broad-banded. And then, so these towers have been up since since 63. And we actually managed to have a little test where the Navy did a rim pack exercise all the way out in Hawaii. And one of our members went out with a small antenna and radio, and they set up there in the one of the dormant volcanoes. And what they really were trying to do is to see if they could have an emergency hospital set up, and sort of if there was a big disaster, how would the Navy help out? And so they all set up their tents and everybody got ready to communicate all over the world. And our little Brightleaf Club of 69 members, one of them was out there. And within one day, he was on the air and communicating all the way back to these antennas at the Greenville site. It was called Project Strong Angel. And so the next transmission didn't occur for 3 days later. So the amateur radio boys, we got it done. So just to prove that we could do stuff in an emergency. But those antennas were very critical to be able to make the distance all the way to Hawaii. And they did. So obviously, our one guy out there with a small antenna on a pole wasn't exactly broadcasting a whole lot of power, but he established communications and had a wonderful link that way. So we've realized the emergency use of these antennas has been, it's one of those things you wish they were up all the time. So we kept putting up temporary feed lines and they kept getting torn down. So finally, after 2 years of COVID, we couldn't get there. Everything had been torn down, and so one question after another, and starting to get involved into this project. I kind of realized, hey, why don't we put out some permanent feed lines? And my co-hosts here kind of suggested a bunch of things, and this project just started to spool itself up into full gear. So as it stands now, we have 2 log periodic antennas that are steerable and on 96-foot towers. And then we have the 4 rhombics. And we'd love to have all of them come back into the ham shack. And then we've been working on a station design, looking at all kinds of SDR radios and so that could possibly be controlled remotely, and looking at a software called Node Red to automate all of this. And this has been done by several other people already, so it's not like we're inventing something new. But with a browser, any browser on any machine could come in and, with the right credentials, run the station. We have fiber optic internet coming into the station, and we're going to have 4 drops right into the room. So we have internet out the yin-yang. Then we have a generator for the entire building. So whenever the power goes out, we're still going to be on the air. And we also have a tower outside that we could put either a mesh network or a repeater or some other kind of a thing. And, one extra thing. We have a 30-foot satellite dish that we could do something with if somebody could figure out how to make it work. So we have a whole bunch of old parts that we're trying to spin up into a superstation if I can get the funding. And we're looking into, GoFundMe and grants and whatever I can find to do this. But so we're actively in the planning stages right now. So
that sounds like a fabulous setup. And, one of the things that, kind of disappointed me at Bethany is, the antennas are all gone. And, the matching network is still out there, but, and the tower bases out in the park, but the antennas are gone. And you all were lucky enough to hang on to at least 4 of the rhombics. And so, yeah, I can't imagine being able to hook up to those. So I hope that project comes to fruition.
Yeah, so if any of your people want to see what we're talking about, the internet site w4amc.com has a link that shows the project and where it stands and what we're doing. So that's easy. If people are interested, they can go hit it and see, all right, what are they doing now? So
yeah, very good. Well, let's go over to Jocelyn again, up in Westchester, and just kind of talk a little bit more about the special event before we sign off tonight, about the certificates and QSL information. Just kind of recap everything for us, so people can work this special event this weekend.
Yeah, happy to do so, Neil. So as we mentioned, there'll be 3 stations on the air: Whiskey 3V from the DC area, Whiskey 8 Oscar, obviously from VOA Bethany, and Whiskey 4 Alpha from the Greenville site. And we'll be on, again, 2280 for sure. If 10 and 15 are open, we're going to try to get on those band. Look for us on sideband. There'll be some FT8 stations running. And we will also try to get some CW in. As I mentioned before, the ARRL contest is going on, so we won't be able to, we'll see what we can do there on the bands. And if you make a contact with anybody, or any of the stations, I should say, you'll be able to get the certificate that will be emailed to your QRZ address within 2 weeks, I believe is what Lou said. The digital QSL card will be emailed to your QRZ email address as well, and that'll take about a day or so, for us to process that. And then if you send an SASC to the QSL information that's on the QRZ page, you'll be able to get the card, the paper card as well, and that'll take a little longer, obviously, to sort everything out. But those are the things we have, and we've already got some operators lined up for us to work while the museum will be operating. I want to remind the listeners that the VOA Music and Broadcasting is open on the weekends in the afternoon. And during Hamvention, if you're coming for Hamvention, we always have extended hours. It will start Thursday and will end Sunday. And during from Thursday to Saturday will be 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then on Sunday, it will be 12 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay, so I'm sure we'll be talking about that again before Hamvention, but that's a little preview here to put that thought in people's minds that if you're coming to Hamvention, you haven't seen one of these VOA sites, this is a great one to come check out, and there's just a ton of work's been done to make it very accessible and friendly to people going around looking at all this, all this vintage equipment, and so it's a must see. So we'll talk about that more, I'm sure, as we get closer to Hamvention. But every year when I go to Hamvention, take a bunch of people down to the museum and do a tour, and always see something different. Every time I walk into the place, there's something different. So, Jocelyn, what else do you have for us?
I just forgot to mention one thing, which is if you go on a different weekend that's not Hamvention, let the person at the front desk know you are a ham. We understand you want probably a more technical tour, and we'll try to get you a docent that has more understands a little bit more of the technical background versus just getting the general public tour, which is still fabulous, but you get a little bit more insight on some of the stuff. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, and you'll probably get the Drake collection on top of everything, where everybody else might be going, what's that? So, all right, very good. Well, I think we're about finished here. So let me just kind of go around to everybody. Any final comments or anything that we've left out? Let's go to Marc first.
I would like to mention one thing that's as we were talking about the VOA Museum there in Ohio, they have the first transmitter that was used to broadcast the first program from the Voice of America overseas, the WLWO. Right, Jocelyn?
Yep, yeah, absolutely right. And that was I'll call it a barn find. As some of you may know, WLW down the road from the VOA Museum the land is being redeveloped, so to speak. There'll be a little commercial center near the tower. It's going to be interesting. But as they were tearing down some stuff and moving stuff, one of the Lee, which is the museum curator, asked if he could look around and ask what's in the back shed. Oh, just a bunch of nothing. And he started looking at it and then opened a couple of doors, and then he knew exactly what he was looking at and salvaged it, the parts that could be salvaged, and brought it back to the museum, and it is now on display. So we're very fortunate that we were able to save it and bring it back. So thank you, Mark, for bringing that up. I had forgotten to mention, yes, before VOA, the Bethany station was fully operational. The way to get the message back to Europe was with the WLWO for overseas transmitter out of Mason that would basically beam it back to the United Kingdom, and then the BBC would take it from shortwave and rebroadcast over long wave and medium wave for the German public to hear.
All right. Anything else, Mark?
Well, one of the QSL cards will have a picture of the transmitter on it.
Ah, very good.
In case you're interested in that.
Yeah.
As will there, and Jocelyn's will have an image of the massive log periodic there at Site C. For all those interested in antennas and RF side of things. I
know from my point of view, this whole episode has brought up an old memory, and I was a young kid in 1963 in Germany. And after the assassination of President Kennedy, we tuned into the Voice of America to find out what the truth was, rather than whatever was being spoken at the time. So wherever we moved quite frequently, about every 2 years, international business is what my father was doing. And for me and our family, it was very, very important to really understand what was going on so you could make the proper decisions about what was happening. So the service has been an incredible influence to world events, and trying to being an equalizer in the playing field. So I'm very honored to be able to do this.
All right, Peter. Well, thank you so much for being here, and Mark and Jocelyn, appreciate all your work and getting this special event going, and a chance to remember back 80 years ago when that transmitter first came on the air and was operational. So thank you all for being here tonight, and we look forward to hearing you on the air this weekend.
Yep. Look, it sounds fantastic. We're looking for a lot of people calling us, help us spot and keep us busy. That's what we're there for. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Neil.
You're most welcome.
Appreciate it.
You're most welcome. All right. Well, that is a wrap for this edition of Ham Talk Live. I'd like to thank my guests, Jocelyn, KD8VRX, and Mark, K3POE, rather, and Peter, N4PVH, and everybody out there in cyberspace for listening, and invite you back next week when Mark Smith, N6MTS, will be here to talk about SOAR. That's Satellite Optimized Amateur Radio. And for a list of all of our upcoming guests, visit hamtalklive.com. So for now, this is Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, saying 7375, and may the good DX be yours.
Well, you came right back to my CQ call. Your readability 5 and strength 9. You never once mentioned your weather at all, and I didn't mention mine. We talked and talked for hours and hours. I completely forgot you're a ham. I don't know your power or the height of your tower, and frankly, I don't give a damn. So 73s to you and your family, I'll be seeing you further down the lawn. Yeah, 73s to you and your family, I'll be seeing you further down the lawn. It's hard